Hello, my name is Christine Strang, and my Ignite talk today will be on how increasing fish consumption will increase future food security in the Pacific Island countries and territories. The Pacific Island countries and territories is a geographical region of the Pacific Ocean. It covers over 300,000 square miles. To put that in perspective, that is 1/3 the size of British Columbia. Food security among many of these islands is very unstable due to the effects of climate change, natural disasters, and their economic situation, but I will focus on how climate change is affecting their food security. For example, Tuvalu is one of the most vulnerable islands in this region. Most of the islands, like Tuvalu, are coral formations, which means they are extremely porous, and with a population of around 10,000 people, they are losing land quickly due to the rising sea levels through the coral ground. The article that will be used in this Ignite talk is called Planning the Use of Fish for Food Security in the Pacific. The purpose of this talk is to identify how government intervention is needed to ensure the future food security of the people of this region through the increase of the consumption of fish. Before I continue, I will make sure everyone is clear on the definition of food security. Food security is defined as the physical, social, and economic access to nutritious food to meet dietary needs and preferences. So why should governments pick fish as their focus on improving food security? Well, the majority of dietary animal protein in the Pacific Islands comes from fish due to their limited access to other protein sources, due to restricted land available due to the small islands. If we have already recognized that fish consumption will help increase food security, then what's the problem? In 2030, the fish required to meet recommended per capita fish consumption will not be able to be supplied by the current fisheries. This paper claims that the solution to this problem is that the governments of the Pacific Island countries need to increase access to tuna and increase small pond aquaculture to provide food security. But how will governments reach this goal? The organizations listed above assist the Pacific Islands to manage their fisheries and habitats, and they have a clear objective, and that is to use fish to benefit people and at the same time make sure their development is sustainable. However, there are many ways in which these organizations can increase the quantity and quality of their policies and planning. Here I have listed 4 questions the article insists organizations ask themselves to improve upon. Identify, estimate, forecast, and harmonize. The first being to identify per capita fish consumption needed for good nutrition. 34 to 37 kilograms is needed to meet the recommendations to promote health. The second is to estimate the current consumption of fish. Patterns were observed from households, and they found that consumption of fish is currently very high, and rural areas rely more heavily on fish than urban areas. The third is to forecast the fish needed for the future, with a higher demand for an increase in fish in urban areas, since they currently eat less than rural areas. The last suggestion is to harmonize the use and development of fish resources to optimize food security, livelihoods, and economic growth, and to consider where the fish will come from and how rural communities will catch them in a cost-effective way. This paper identifies 2 solutions to the questions that were raised to the organizations. The first being to increase people's access to tuna, as most Pacific Islands have tons of tuna, and policies need to be put in place to allow coastal communities to catch more of them. The second of the 2 solutions the paper gives is to increase small pond aquaculture. This heavily depends on the competence of the people operating them, and they need to focus on educating women as they are very involved in small pond aquaculture. So why can't we fix their food security problem through importing goods and market distribution? In rural areas, they don't have a lot of opportunity to earn money and wouldn't be able to purchase these goods since imported food is expensive. These countries are very isolated and shipping costs would be very high. In conclusion, providing access to enough fish for good nutrition in coastal and urban areas by 2030 is within the grasp of most Pacific Islands. If we increase food security for these islands, they will become more resilient to climate change. Even though the solutions outlined in the paper are promising to increase the production and availability of fish, we must be careful. For example, Chocus and sea cucumbers are no longer at their full potential because we have harvested so many of them, and fish consumption must be therefore regulated.